our community organization down in Santa Clara County, our focus is building Asian American youth power, and a huge part of that is ensuring the mental wellness of our youth. And today for this final panel, we're going to be focusing on hearing from some of our young people from across the Bay Area. We've got folks from everywhere from Fremont to Union City to San Jose to here in Oakland. And really hearing from them about what they think the strategies are that work best for youth mental health in our communities, and also how they define wellness and health, period, from the youth perspective. So I want to get right into it so we have as much time as possible to hear from our young folks. And as I call them one by one, they are going to come out in response to their bios. So we are starting with Kim Luna, who was born in Hayward and raised in Union City. Get some applause for Kim. Kim uses they, them pronouns. They are currently affiliated with Filipino Advocates for Justice as a youth intern. And they say that that's helped them dismantle Western perceptions that have been embedded in their household. As a queer Filipino, their experience has been hard, navigating around particular environments like home or school. Through participation with FAJ, Kim has been given the tools and resources in order to manage and process emotions when they're triggered and to start on mindfulness practices. Additionally, NC-PASA has helped them manage anxiety and share more about themselves on a daily basis virtually and in person. Something they'd like to see in the future of mental health is seeing the experiences of queer youth, especially Filipino, and navigation around religious parenting. So let's have a hand for Kim. Kim, come on up. Next up, we have Ali Pascual, who uses she, her. Ali is an intern at Filipino Advocates for Justice's Youth Wellness Program. She's a high school student based in the Bay Area, and she's passionate about helping her community through healing and social justice work. Ali joined Youth Wellness in 2022, and she's been advocating for development in breaking the mental health stigma in her community and in future generations, even beyond hers. Additionally, she's the public relations officer in the Filipino Youth Association at her school. She is elated to attend this summit and share her personal experience as a youth intern and her thoughts on the future of mental health. Welcome, Ali. So we've got both of our FAJ youth out here, and next we are going to see Daria Cisper, who uses she and they pronouns. They are a proud, queer, and mixed-race Chamorro American. Daria enjoys art and music outside of her school life, and she is passionate about the state of youth wellness today because of how mental health has shaped her life. Daria is one of our core leaders at South Bay Youth's Changemakers and has been a member of the organization since 2022. Daria, come on up. And last for the panel, but certainly not least, is Dan Pascual. Dan was born in San Francisco and raised right here in Oakland. They use any pronouns and are currently affiliated with AYPAL as a youth intern. AYPAL has allowed Dan a place for him to reconnect with his culture and become closer to those in his community. Dan is also a member of the LGBTQ+ community, and with the safe space that's been provided by AYPAL, she has been able to grow into and embrace her identity as a gender-fluid pansexual. During his time with AYPAL, Dan has learned to allow themselves to take up space and that asking for help is nothing to be scared of. They've learned the importance of taking breaks when needed and to not shoulder everything they're working through on his own. He's very grateful to have learned that needing help doesn't make you weak, because teamwork makes the dream work. AYPAL has been a guiding light for Dan, and she considers herself very lucky to be part of this community. Something you'd like to see in the future of mental health is definitely a platform for AAPI youth to ask for and receive the help they're looking for. Please welcome Dan. Hey everybody, great to have you all here on the stage. And just to remind you, what we're trying to do today is really develop a shared understanding along with our youth members here about what influences and drives mental health for youth, and from their perspective, what counts as an effective strategy for intervention. And so I'm gonna take a couple minutes with each of our panelists here and give them about 2 or 3 minutes to talk a little bit about the programming they're involved in and how that intersects with youth wellness. After each of them does that, I'll ask a few questions, we'll have a discussion, and then we'll open the floor to audience questions. And there will be some folks running around with mics to give you all a mic if you'd like to ask a question. All right, so Dan, I'd love to start with you, and let's go just straight down the line.
First. My name is Dan Pascual. I'm a member of AYPAL, which is actually located right here in Chinatown, down on 12th Street, so look. I've been a member for 3 years, since 2021, and one of the AYPAL sites that I'm really appreciative of and has changed the trajectory of my life would be our community site, which allowed me a space for me to openly be myself, and also just gave a space for other queer and questioning, this is what the community stands for, youth who knew that they were something, but they didn't know how to be someone yet.
Daria.
Hello, everybody. Daria. I'm a member of SBYC, South Bay Youth Changemakers, a budding social justice organization that's designed to center youth voices on current issues. As far as how our org intersects with wellness, we actually did a project last year, I think it was, called AYPAL. That stands for Youth Participatory Action Research. A little bit of a mouthful, so we call it AYPAL. But essentially, we conducted focus groups to gather data on the state of youth wellness in the South Bay, and then from that data, we created a zine about wellness. And the best part about it is that it was the youth that was leading this process, so our voices can actually be heard.
Kim, did you want to start off for FHA? Okay, Allie.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Allie. So FHA, aka Filipino Advocates for Justice, is a 50-year-old organization that empowers the Filipino community. And in that program, we have youth wellness. We are a youth program that develops a calm and safe space for the community. We explore Western as well as traditional healing practices through the mind, body, and spirit. Our goal is to teach and advocate different ways of healing for our community, regardless of who you are.
Is it working? Okay.
You can hold it like really close.
Okay, now I hear myself. Okay, so, I'm part of FHJ, we're sitting together. So, I'm in the Filipino Youth Coalition, shout out my best friends in the back. So what we do is a lot of community, like giving back, making workshops, creating curriculum about, specific terms like intersectionality, or even just providing a space for us young people, because, the schools and institutions be working us. So, yeah, that's a good, keep it short and sweet.
Thank you all for that a little brief window into your org. Now, I wanna ask the first question, which is, how do your respective organizations reclaim and redefine mental health? So what I mean by this is when you think about the work you're doing as a young person within your organization, what do you see as the vision of mental health that your org has that might distinguish it from, what you see as mental health in pop culture or elsewhere, for example, at school? So would anyone like to start off and speak to that?
So for me personally, I think that when you trust youth and their voices to lead others, it kind of breaks that stigma that adults know everything. And when you trust youth to lead others, it gives youth the confidence to do the work and come up with ideas for their own program. I could say that about youth wellness. I guess you could say my lead, Rachel Azaderos, they're in the back, shout out. She's a really great coordinator. Yeah, in our program, it's youth led, and so it really builds our confidence. I know myself and other interns were really shy coming into the program, but the confidence really just rise when we realize like this is our program, this is us. You know, we are youth led, and we want to give back to the community. Thank you.
Yeah, what I'm hearing from that is that youth agency in combating adultism by giving our youth roles to be self-determining in these environments really matters. I wonder, Daria, you look like you had something to contribute to this.
Yeah, kind of building off of what Ali said, it's really important that we give youth room to actually grow and lead. And part of what a lot of our orgs do, SBYC, we're given the tools to lead because in order to actually practice leading, you need to know how to do it. So when we're given those tools, we can actually do a lot. And being trusted to do those things is also really key because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about youth and that we're not able to stand in leadership positions.
Absolutely. Dan, did you want to say anything about this from your experience at AYPAL?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the ways AYPAL likes to uplift mental health and just like the wellness is also, like Ali and Daria have said, giving a lot of giving the power for the youth to make decisions. For example, I'm part of YCO, which is the youth campaign organization, where it's basically a group of youth who have been with the program for a while, who kind of like make decisions for how they want the rest of the year to look. So just like we build the curriculum, we like make presentations, slides, and kind of we also take input from the other sites in order to see what they want to do, how they want the year to look, because it's not just our experience, it's also their experiences. So like just being able to have the opportunity to kind of be like, hey, this is what I want to learn, this is what I'm interested in, and then having someone being like, oh my gosh, yeah, let's do that. You know, it's very like you're having an opportunity to be heard and to be validated, to be like, yeah, I can take up space and I should.
Thank you so much for sharing that. The last thing I want to end with on this question is, Kim, I wonder if you would share a little bit and expand on what was in your bio about the kinds of tools and strategies you've learned being part of FHA and NCPASA that make you feel that you've been able to reclaim, redefine mental health as a member of those organizations.
So like after these orgs, like after participating with them, man, like I love talking about myself now. Like it has been able to, give that individual help because, in classrooms there's a tendency to, talk to the whole classroom. That's, yeah. But I think with FHA and NCPASA, it brings it to a mentor and a mentee, and even less than that, just a friend. And I feel like that's like what's more important, and I wanted to add on to Dan of like, these nonprofits are able to like cater to the youth because they're youth led. I feel like it'd be weird for like an adult to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna talk about all this, youth, all that, because you don't know the experience, right? Because we have that intergenerational gap, which we're trying to bridge, Yeah.
That's great. And I actually want to build on that because I think it goes into the next question, which is, we have this panel because we're a room full of primarily adults. We want to know from you, one of the things we do want to know from you is, what do adults and adult-led institutions often get wrong about youth? Despite us having the best of intentions, wanting to make sure our programming is focused on our youth and benefits you and serves you, what do you think we get wrong? And if you think there's anything that adults get right in these situations, what are the things you've seen our institutions getting right? I wonder if all of you could speak to that, and anyone who's got the spirit to move them right now who wants to speak to that. I see a look on Daria's face, so
Yeah, I have a lot to say about this one, guys. I think a misconception that adults often have about youth is that we don't care about real world issues. And I'm going to tell you right now, for a lot of us, it's not that we don't care. Many of us who care a lot are just burnt out from the rigorous demands of our school system. And that's a systemic failure. Learning should not come at the cost of wellness, and yet that is how school is designed. It is the way that it's structured today, it's meant to prepare us for a capitalist society that doesn't value rest. So, I mean, you could say that the oppressive system kind of wins in this situation because we're too exhausted to do the work that matters. And speaking of exhaustion, for some reason, a lot of adults also think that youth can't be exhausted. They expect us to have like endless supply of energy, but like we don't. Just like them, we're human. We need rest, and also, how could we possibly have that much energy when the state of our world seems so hopeless? It's really hard to have that energy when you feel like you can't make a difference, and that's why these orgs are so important, to have a space for youth to talk about these issues and build up some hope.
thank you so much, Daria. Does anyone else want to contribute an answer to this question? It can be something that adults get right also. It can be something get wrong, something get right. Just a reflection on, that generation gap and what you see.
Yeah, I think kind of building off of what Daria said about like school. Didn't like that, guys. Sorry about that. Did 4 years of high school and I was like, wow, okay. But I think that I do want to say that I do appreciate my teachers at my school. Teachers at my school. Oh, school librarians are the GOAT, guys. Love them. Love librarians. Y'all good. Y'all crazy. But I want to appreciate the adults in my life who do understand that there are some things that they might not be able to understand or connect to. They acknowledge that, but they still do their best to find a way to support me and everyone else that they're in contact with as much as possible. That's something that I believe a lot of adults in my life get right. But I do also think that there's just like, I don't know, there's like this conception about the youth, especially of our generation, that there feels like there's a hopelessness, right? Where people, I mean, there's a whole bunch of like, people are like, oh, you and that damn phone, and I'm just like, well, sometimes they're right, but most of the time it's like, I feel like, especially in my kind of experience, a lot of adults think that I'm helpless or I don't know anything, and when they take it upon themselves to teach me what they think I don't know, it's in a very patronizing way, and that's not appreciated. Or there's just kind of like, there's just a whole bunch of things that people look at me and they get like an image in their head of like, you need help, and I'm just like, oh, okay, like, all right. But yeah, I just want to bring it back to like, there are a lot of things that adults may not understand, but I would love to appreciate the people who try and acknowledge that there is something that they can't do to help. They just might not be the right person for it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that reflection, and I want to also just reflect back as a combination of what both of you said. It sounds like part of what you're calling for is for adults to not make assumptions based not only on appearances but their perceptions of a generation, and that, sorry to use the cliche, but that communication is key. Just asking youth what they're going through, what they need, what kinds of structures would help, and allowing them to design those structures and make their needs known, assert them, seems really important. So thank you.
We don't bite, just ask, please.
How about our FAJ folks?
All right, so I think one assumption that adults often get wrong is that youth just have it easier in general. And we really don't, because there's a spectrum of struggles that youth face. And they can have different struggles than adults, they can have the same. But it's really offensive when adults are like, yeah, you know, this generation, they're snowflakes. We're really not. You know, we struggle just as much as you guys do. You know, and adding on to that, I think that the youth aren't taken seriously by adults and institutions about their mental health. And when that happens, it blocks resources for the youth to access mental health. And I can even give an example for this. This one time, I was trying to go to my high school counselor last year, and I was like, hey, you know, times are tough right now. Could I ask for some mental health resources? And she was like, I'm so sorry, honey. How are your grades? And I was like, okay. Well, my grades are kind of going down because I need mental health services. You know, that's why I'm here to talk to you. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, but that algebra grade's kind of low. And I was like, I know, that's why I'm talking to you right now. But yeah, and just all in all, like, we really don't have it easier. I think, you know, we do suffer as much as you guys do. And that's a topic that we need to talk about more.
Thank you. Did you want to say anything to add to that, Kim?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna start off with, you know, what my understanding of, you know, the institutions and our parents are. So, the institutions kind of, you know, put on, you know, the Western perception, imperialism, colonization, whatever, you know. So, my Filipino parents will praise that shit. Praise it. So good. Christianity, Catholicism, love it. Love God, yes. You know, men, great. But it's like that's the start of generational trauma right there. Like, you know, man, I just lost my train of thought. So, let me think about it.
All right, while you're stewing on that, I'm gonna ask each of you for I wanna hear it, one concrete example of a time you saw a strategy for reaching our youth work in your organization. Just one. It can be in the org you're currently in, it could be like at your school, it could be anywhere from your life. But one example, that's a real example, where you saw a strategy for youth outreach, for youth intervention work, what it was, and why do you think it worked? And anyone can start.
Okay, this is a really fun one, and I think a lot of you will agree, but you'll be surprised how much people like to talk when they've had food. But yeah, it's like, I think we've definitely had, APAL has had a lot of like community building programs in which there would be no like curriculum or like program to follow. We just get graham crackers, we get whipped cream, and we get to build gingerbread houses. We get to eat it straight from the can. Like, it's that's you guys. Anyway, I just think that like having a fun just space for people to walk into and be pleasantly surprised that like, because our program is after school, so I think me personally, like walking into program and then seeing like no slideshow presentation and there's just like tables full of food, I'm like, let's go, you know? And it also builds a space for people to start talking because I don't know about you guys, but I don't like eating in silence. Well, well, sometimes, but we're not gonna get into that. But I just think that like letting people see an easygoing and just kind of like, hey, just chill mood is like really, and it also takes off the stress from school because I came here directly after school. So just having that space to like unwind and like see people that I know will support me no matter what, and like being in this safe space is like truly like an oasis after a long day of school.
Thank you. I think everyone can kind of resonate with that a little bit. Absolutely. Daria, do you want to go next down the line?
Yeah, I 100% agree with what Dan just said. Number one, food is a great incentive to make people come to events. I mean, especially high schoolers, like, I don't know, we just like to snack. And just unstructured time, like holding space just for us, not necessarily anything planned, but we're just allowed to, mingle and talk to each other. Because I found for one of the programs that SBYC hosts, it's called YBOC, Youth Building Our Power, our meetings, at least half of it would be saved for like some kind of unstructured community building time. It's so important to have the space to actually make connections with people because, to be quite honest, this work doesn't mean anything if we don't know each other. So, and more on like the food aspect, I really agree with what Dan was saying about like seeing tables full of food and people around. Something about it just makes me want to talk. And it's funny, I was recently writing a draft of my Common App essay kind of about this, how food is community. It really does bring people together. It makes you want to talk. I mean, I cannot think of a single family gathering I've had where there hasn't been platters full of food. Like, what do you mean? But it is so important to have unstructured time to just talk to each other. It can really make for an interesting conversation.
For me, I think when there are safe spaces to be able to get to know everyone, and intentionally multi-generational. And where this comes from is actually a program at FHA called SLDP. I'm repping their shirt right now, but SLDP stands for Summer Leadership Development Program. And what it is basically current interns, new interns, college interns, and even staff. We all come together in the summer. And it is what it is you develop your leadership over the summer. And I had that experience last year for the first time, and it was honestly life-changing because I didn't think that I would actually have something in common with a staff member or a college student. And I think that also comes back to breaking the stigma that adults know everything and adults can, rule whatever, right? Being in that program really puts me in a perspective, and it let me like get to know other people. But yeah, and I even talked to like other interns, and they were like, yeah, it was really cool getting to know like college people and like new interns, and it also just gives us a sense of community and just to be together.
Awesome. I really like that emphasis on the multi-generational space. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet because I see that it says start Q&A. So back to what I was saying, when it's like, when the Western education is passed down, that's where all the ias and the isms are learned. It's never just, oh, I'm born with it. You learn that shit. It's us people are like literally supposed to be together, but when Western perception comes in, it's like, oh, race, ethnicity, and the separation between each other and the separation generationally. What was the last question?
Just a strategy that you can think of from your experience that has worked to reach your peers.
Oh, okay. So I went to this thing one time, and it was like, she was talking, and then she was like, when you see a leader and they pull up a mirror, you see their community. And I feel that was it, And when I see organizations like represent me, represent the Filipino community, the queer community, that's all I need, because it's about giving back to the community and the future generations, and that's what this work is about.
Thank you so much. I was going to ask for a time check, so I'm very grateful to you for holding the start Q&A. So let's start the Q&A. And I think we actually have a mic right up here. Okay, we've also got that one. There's one here. There's one that can be passed around. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you to you all. I love hearing all of you speak. I would like to think that, we are the same generation. I'm 25, so the generational gap isn't that big, but I live with my 16-year-old cousin, and I don't really have the closest relationship with him, but Ali, you said that, the youth are really having it difficult right now, and I believe it. Like, I was just listening to a podcast, and I'm just gonna say the statistics in the studies that show that youth who are exposed to social media, especially before or during puberty, are more likely to be at risk for depression, anxiety, and suicide. It is insane, especially for girls. Prepubescent girls are 3 times more likely to be depressed because of the social media and all these apps. They're specifically designed to always give you that dopamine hit, the likes and the followers. Like, I even heard my cousin's friend the other day being like, oh, I almost got 1,000 followers, like that's like some kind of achievement. And I don't really relate to it, but maybe I was hoping that maybe you could kind of shed some light on how the phones and the social media has impacted your mental health as well as the mental health of your peers.
That's a really good question, which I think I might be able to speak on because I don't have a phone, and I'm kind of happy. Not in the sense that phones are bad. I mean, obviously, I feel like me personally, I view the main use for a phone is communication. To communicate with people you don't really get to see very often. And I think that, I can agree, the use of social media, while it can also be something that brings people together with hey, look at this funny meme, look at this silly video, and also you get to meet really cool people online and you get to make friends with people. There's also, the dark side to it in which people get so obsessed and sucked in it. Doom scrolling is a thing because people can't take their eyes off of their phone. And it's also, people are like, oh, look at how many hours, or I know my friends are like, look at how many hours I have on Instagram, on TikTok, and I don't know what to respond to that because I'm like, that's not good for you. So I just think that there should be a line in which, I guess this goes back to what we were talking about when we were talking about things at work, is human interaction. A lot of people, I think, don't realize how fun that is, to just go to a park and see people playing and having fun. That can be your new social media. You can go and just watch people have fun, not in a weird way, and you can observe so many fun things by just people watching. Make up stories in your mind, guys. It's so fun. There are other outlets and ways for you to experience the same things that social media gives you without burning your eyeballs out. And also your sleep schedule might improve too.
So I wanted to check with staff, do a time check to see if we can get a couple more responses from our panelists on this, and then do we have time to take one more question from the audience? Oh, we got 10? Okay, perfect. Go right ahead, take your time.
Okay, I also think this is a really great, oh my goodness, great question. It reminds me a lot of my mom because she was very adamant about me not getting on social media until I was older, and I really do understand that because I think it's so hard on a young person to be exposed to so many opinions. You can only care about what so many people think. And when you're exposed to that at a young age, it's difficult to not to get away from that. You're addicted. And as Dan was talking about doom scrolling, yes, it is a problem. Okay, whenever I am feeling really low, that's what I'm doing. I'm doom scrolling. It's tough. Sometimes it feels like all you can do is sit there and scroll because you're just so exhausted and done with life. But yeah, I also think it's really interesting because I've been noticing like middle schoolers, like these young girls. Like I remember when I was in middle school, I was wearing like My Little Pony pants and like bright rainbow shirts and stuff. But I see these little girls and they're just growing up so fast. It's because they're exposed to all these beauty trends and stuff that are meant to, you know, line the pockets of old creepy white men. But it's so sad because it's like there's no childhood. What happened to that awkward preteen phase? Like, it's just sad.
Allie?
Honestly, what you just said, they kind of skip that whole like awkward phase, and I noticed that as the years go on. I even see it like with my younger brother. Like now that he has access to technology, I'm like, oh gosh, like he's exposed to so many things now. And even with myself, I made the mistake of downloading Instagram in 4th grade, and so you can imagine what impact that has on a girl growing up. And I would always feel insecure because I'm like, oh, these Instagram models are so pretty, blah blah blah. And I do agree that like, and some people might be like, yeah, I would rather let my kid use social media later on in life. And I agree with that too. Like, even though it is a good outlet for, sharing what's going on with the world and like world issues, I think you can get your news from somewhere else as well, not just social media. So it definitely does put an effect on someone growing up.
I think that applies to adults as well as young people for sure. Kim?
Well, I do like the likes and the follows, but I think that some generations are almost forced to, have technology like as their best friend. Cause like for me, my parents just threw a tablet in my hand and was like, do your thing. Never like dolls, never cars, nothing like that. It was always just, a phone, the Temple Run or something. And like the popular girls and guys are always like, oh, you have to get Snapchat and use the dog filter and all this stuff. And it's like, I had to kind of thing. Like I didn't really have a choice.
Thank you for sharing that. This makes me feel hearing what y'all are saying and literally not recognizing some of the words or apps makes me feel like we need, seriously, like that alone is like such a gap. And I'm 36, so I'm of a different generation, but I still was used to the internet as a young person, and still it's so different. It makes me feel like we need a tutorial to like really know what's going on with our youth and what you're facing. I think we have about 5 minutes left, so we have time for at least one more audience question. Yes. If you want to come right up.
Hi. Well, first I want to say how impressed I am for all of you guys to speak so eloquently and so confidently on stage, and for all these adults.
Can we get a round of applause for our youth?
And before I ask my question, I wanted to share a little background why I asked this question. So a little background is that I have to write this down because I actually was not prepared to share this on this platform. But listen to you guys, I felt like I should share this. My firstborn child was born 16 years ago. So my teenager came to us last year in April, and she was born female, and she came to me and my husband and told us that she's transgender. It took us by surprise because they did not grow up typically expressing that they are transgender. So it took us by surprise. And it was just coming from, wanted to share from a parent's perspective, it was a difficult time for me and my husband because at that moment we felt like we lost our little girl that we knew, right? And it was hard for us to even look at her childhood pictures because the way she wanted to transform now. So my question is, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. You mentioned that parents should gain more understanding. How would you encourage parents to gain more understanding of what you're thinking and what you're going through? That's my first question. Conversely, how would you advise parents of transgender and queer teens to initiate conversations without sounding annoying? I want to be there for my child. I want to be fully supportive of their decision. At the same time, I'm as confused as anyone who are parents of transgender and queer, especially hit us as a surprise. So I would come ask for your advice on how I should communicate with my child, and what are some of the right questions to ask without sounding like, are you sure? Because we want to respect that, right? So we don't want to ask, are you sure? Are you, as you know, like parents don't know a lot about you. So that's my question.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I just want to say to our youth, I know sometimes it can be tough to hear from the parent's perspective, and so I would encourage you to respond only within what you are comfortable sharing or even responding. You're not under any obligation necessarily to give advice or position yourself differently. It's completely what you're comfortable with, and if you are not comfortable engaging with that question, thank you for the question, but I just want to make sure our youth know this is your space for you to be yourselves. If you're not comfortable engaging with that question from that perspective, we don't have to go there. So I leave that completely up to you, and I just want to encourage you to check in with yourselves for a moment before feeling any sort of pressure or compulsion to respond. But I want to leave that choice to you. I don't want to make it for you.
Sorry. Wait, can I answer?
Yeah, if you would like to go ahead.
First of all, I want to say congratulations to your child and thank you for wanting to support them as much as possible. That is like that's a kind of energy that I wish my parents would have with me. So really just you seeking help is really the first step in how you are connecting with your child, Like it's I think just the way I see it is now you have someone new to get to know again, and you can make so many new memories with them. You can just, just showing them. I hope you've shared how much you want to support them with your child, because them just knowing that will be like just the best thing that a parent could ever do for their child, is just letting them know that they're there for you, and just, like being like sorry, but like questions you can ask instead of "Are you sure?" You can be like, "Can you explain?" or like, "Tell me more." Engage in conversation with them, because always when you're introducing yourself to someone being like, "Are you sure about that?" It's kind of like, who do you think you're talking to? So you don't want to go down that path, but just engaging in conversation with them and just letting them know that you're as confused as they are, and you want to go along this journey with them, because communication is key. Just letting each party know how you feel, and just if space is needed, give it to them. And that goes both ways, because I understand, like, from the child perspective, how transitioning can be. And I think that really just the support that you can give them, and just letting them know, like, hey, you're a new person now, but I still love you either way,
That was really beautiful. Thank you. Does anyone else want to respond to the question?
I can. So, I think a really good thing is having a relationship with them. Like, as parents, I feel like it seems like what's authoritarian figure. Like, you know, like, you know how you have to, you know, be a parent, I guess, whatever. I don't know how to explain it. But, like, just being there, even, like, as a friend or a person overall. Because, you know, that it's a big, like, shift to get used to, I know, because I know you were talking, you know, like, missing the photos and stuff. But, you know, I think it's a good thing that they found themselves, in a way. Yeah. Yeah, for sure, yeah. But yeah, just a lot of support, nurturing them, and just trying not to really control them, really, because you know they're their own person. They're gonna flourish into whoever they want to be. Just you know, yeah.
A little more insight. I remember after coming out to my mom as queer, she was in that phase of, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure?" This went on for like a few months, and you know, at the time I didn't really understand, and I just felt really attacked. Like, of course I know myself. What are you talking about? But you know, after reflecting on it, when I got a little bit older, it is very much a transition. Like, it's different. Like, you know something like this important about your kid, and it's like, oh my god, I feel like I didn't know them at all. Like, how did I not know? It's tough for parents, and you know, I encourage you to remember that. Imagine how they feel. It's totally one of those things where when you're just figuring out your identity, especially like going into high school, it's like, oh my god, how did I not figure this out sooner? Because I remember looking back on it, I was like, yeah, interesting. I don't know how I didn't figure this out. But yeah, I really just think reminding them that you're also scared and confused for them, like Dan was saying, is just so important. Like, it's better to communicate how you're feeling than not say anything. It's helpful to know that your parent cares and that they want to know you and they want to know more. Yeah, since then, I've been talking to my mom a lot more than I ever have. So I think it really goes to show that if you show that you care and let them know that you're there to support them no matter what, they'll come to you.
I think it's time check. I think we're good. Ali, if you didn't have anything that you wanted to share on this, okay. I want to first just thank you all for being such an engaged audience. Thank you both for those questions that I think really came from the heart, were very sincere, and really showed, you know, a desire to listen to our youth. And I want to thank our youth presenters who took the time out of their busy schedules to be here, to share their experiences with us, who did, and I think, an amazing job. I just, huge hand for them. Thank you so much. And that concludes this panel, and I'm going to pass the mic over. Thank you again.